I don't know about you, but I feel good.
There we go.
I don't know about you, but I feel good. I don't know about you, but I feel good.
I just needed that little bit of pump me up to get us ready for the show. All right. This is going to be an exciting grad show. We have a whopping 10 people performing for you. And these students have been working so hard over these past 6 weeks. And that's not a lot of time to get a true personal story together. It's pretty incredible when you think about it. And we're really glad to have you here to share with you. We hope you enjoy these stories. They are all true, no matter how crazy and nutty they may sound, they're all true. I would just like to, if everyone could kind of maybe put in chat, or if you're able to open your cameras for this first bit, just kind of like do jazz hands if you've ever heard a story performed before. Let's see if we can see some of those people. All right, so let me look. Yay, okay, I'm seeing a fair amount. All right, how about jazz hands if you've never seen, if this is your first time seeing stories performed live. Let me see some, okay, I've got a few of those. You can always put it in chat too. We want to definitely encourage you. It's pretty neat actually to be able to do this over Zoom, because even though we can't have, the live during pandemic times, we've had to switch to this. It's surprising how well it works though. You can still feel connected on a human level to people who you've never met before and never even seen in person. And so it's amazing that it can come through your computer and it still works oh so well. And we're very grateful. We have students from all over the globe here with us tonight, as well as hopefully audience members. And I hope we have people from far away who are able to tune in. It's very exciting. And what we're going to do, we will ask that you stay muted through the performances, just because unfortunately that means they won't be able to hear your applause and your laughter. But if you can put things in the chat, even though the performer won't be able to look at it as it's happening after they perform, they can go into the chat and they can look and they can see your comments, your questions, your reactions. And so it's a great consolation prize to not being able to hear your reactions in the moment. So we definitely encourage people to enter things in chat as they're going, especially if you have any questions as they're going, and they can always respond back to you later. And that's something, that's an opportunity you don't normally have when you're seeing a live show. You can ask them anything and they will be good and honest about it. Before we jump right into the show, I just want to make sure that everyone is able to do the chat. So why don't you go ahead, if you haven't already, go ahead and enter in chat where you're tuning in from, so we can kind of see some of those answers. I know some of you are putting them in already, but we'll see who's the farthest. Ooh, Queens, nice. Virginia, Maryland, DC. Okay. Ooh, North Carolina. How cool. We got Queens represented very well. Excellent. Okay. So we're going to get right to it. Like I said, we're going to have 10 performers. There's not going to be any break. We're just going to run through, and we are starting our show off strong tonight. Our first talented storyteller is also an amazing mental break dancer. That's right. You should see the moves this woman does in her head. You're about to get the next best thing with a backstage pass into the wildly imaginative brain of our first performer, Nyota Gordon. Woo!
She's a bread house. I like lady stack, that's a fact. Ain't holding nothing back.
This is my favorite time of year. My Sunday school teacher, she puts it together every year. It is the annual Easter egg hunt. I love Easter. I love the Easter egg hunt. And I look so cute. My hair is pressed out. I have on the most beautiful, softish yellow daffodil dress with ruffles at the bottom. I have ruffles on my Bobby doll socks and the shiniest, most patent leatheriest shoes you have ever seen. I am cute. Let's not forget my secret weapon, my Easter basket. It's empty now, has that green plastic grass, but at the end of this, I will have all the Easter eggs and it will be filled to the tippy top. I am ready. Oh yeah, the starting line out. I look up, I look to my left, I look to my right. Guess what? Everyone's about my same height because I'm about to dominate. I'm about to dominate this Easter egg hunt. Oh, they're calling. All right. 1, I lean in. 2, I straighten my dress. 3, I'm off. Operation Domination of Easter Egg Hunt is on the move. And I take off running. I am running as fast as I have ever ran. My little 6-year-old legs are moving. The rotation is spinning. The hair is blowing in the wind. My head is back. Nyota. Nyota. I look back, I keep running. Nyota. Nyota. They keep calling my name, but I was like, they're just trying to hold me back. I run even faster. My dress is blowing in the wind. I think I got a bug in my eye, but I am moving fast. And so I run. There's kids that I'm passing on my left, kids I'm passing on my right. And I run down to the far Easter egg hunt where the kids are already getting eggs. And I am ready. I'm going to get all these Easter eggs and I am ready. I run over and I reach for the egg. I see it over by the tree and I reach for it. But this big hand grabs it before I even get a chance. But that's okay. That's okay. I will get the egg. So I run over to the bush and I reach for the egg and this leg like cuts me off. Man, these kids are big. It's okay. It's okay. I look down in my basket, still empty, but that's okay. I see one right in the middle of the grass and I run for the egg and I slide and I get up and have grass stains all over my dress. But that's okay. That's okay. And I look down, my basket is still empty, but that's okay. And I start looking around and the kids start to clump and they start to leave the field. Does that mean that there's no more eggs? It's okay. I'm going to turn around. I'm going to run back. I run so fast, there'll still be eggs. So I turn around, I run back, and I run toward the Easter egg hunt. And I'm running as fast as I can, wind blowing in my hair. I'm hopeful. I think I'm sweating a little bit, but I'm running. I run over to the trees. No eggs. I run to the bushes. No eggs. And the people, they start to clump like they did at the other Easter egg hunt. Does that mean that there's no more eggs? And they all slowly start to leave the fields. There's no eggs in my hands. There's no eggs in my basket. And there's no more people on the field. I go to my Sunday school teacher and I look at her and I tell her that I don't have any eggs. And she asked, Nyota, why did you run past our Easter egg hunt? Why did you run to the Easter egg hunt where there's strangers? And I looked at her. What? That wasn't our Easter egg hunt. That explained why those kids were so massive, why they were so big. But all I could do was cry. She leaned in down to her daughter, and I saw her whispering something to her, and her daughter was like, no. And then the Sunday school teacher's talking to her, and the daughter's adamantly, no. And the teacher, she reaches into her basket, and she pulls out the biggest chocolate Easter bunny I have ever seen. And she gives it to me, and I put it in my Easter basket. That single moment of kindness, that single moment of kindness really impacted the person that I am today. Kind, sharing, caring, service. So next year, when I go to that Easter egg hunt, I will dominate. I will get all the eggs, but this time to share with all those little Nyotas that ran past their Easter egg hunt, and I will share with them. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. That's awesome. And she is not kidding. She will definitely mess you up if you get between her and an Easter egg. Do not even try that. All right. Next, we are keeping our mojo going with our next storyteller who has been a voice actor for the past 5 years after retiring from his career in public service. Yes, in spite of being a truly nice guy, he loves to portray creatures, monsters, and villains. So, show some mad love and respect for John Meisner.
I'm your life. I'm the one who takes you there. Hey, I'm your life. I'm the one who cares.
Hey everyone, it's my birthday. No, it really is my birthday today. So I'm happy to be sharing this story with all of you today. I'm a fairly level-headed, reasonable, and patient guy. But I must confess that on a warm, sunny day in 2011, my temper reached superhuman proportions. In 2010, I bought a house with the woman I was dating, and like most first-time homeowners, when we moved in, there were a lot of things that needed fixing, like light fixtures and faucets and window screens. Luckily, I'm a rather handy fella, possessing the ingenuity and dexterity to tackle most home repairs. But one of the biggest items that needed to be replaced was our garage door. The house was built in the 80s, and by 2011, that old metal single hinge garage door had certainly seen better days. The brackets were shot, the springs were shot, and it often didn't open or close properly. So I thought to myself, I'm up for this. I can replace my own garage door. And the woman who had moved in with me was like, shouldn't we call a professional to do this? Nope, no sir, not this homeowner. Officers delegate, warriors get it done. I wasn't just trying to impress her or being a typical stubborn male. I actually knew what I was doing. I had done my research, looked into different styles and brands, found one that I liked at the Home Depot, placed my order, and they delivered it. Now, it's important to understand that all the parts for this door came in one box, about 8 feet in length. It's also important to understand that a multi-panel garage door requires a steel rod to be mounted above the door that holds the tension spring, which helps lift the door. These rods are typically 11 to 12 feet long because they have to stretch both beyond the door opening and the track that the door rides on. But we'll get to that rod in a minute. I began by dismantling the old door, prepping the surfaces for the new door, setting up the track, assembling my panels and rollers, and started putting everything in place. So far, the project was looking great, and I thought to myself, yeah, you got this. You'll have this done in a flash. But that's where things started to come off the tracks, literally and figuratively. A storm of annoyance started brewing when I got to one of the last steps in the instruction book, connecting 2 cables to the bottom panel that run down the sides of the door and ultimately connect to that spring-loaded rod that I mentioned earlier. So there I am. I've got the tracks installed. I've lifted 5 50-pound panels into place, but it was impossible to connect these 2 cables to the bottom panel under the weight of a 200-pound fully assembled door. As I began undoing much of my already completed work, the dark torrent of my impatience began to swell. With the cables now installed and the new door now reassembled, I reached the final step in installing the tension rod. Appropriately named, this antagonistic rod came in two pieces, and the manufacturer provided a small metal coupling about the size of a Chinese finger trap with two tiny metal screws to hold the whole thing together. My serenity already on hiatus, I thought to myself, there's no way this contraption's going to hold. But like any good soldier, I stuck to the plan. As I placed this rod over my door and started applying the tension to the spring, I knew this was not going to end well. And when that metal coupling gave way under the enormous pressure of that spring and that steel rod flew across the garage, ricocheting off my Harley, a monsoon of rage erupted, forming a cataclysmic cloud of obscenities that still occupies the airspace above my garage to this day. An outburst of epic proportions. It set off car alarms in the neighborhood. Dogs started howling. Starlings took flight, and parents pulled their kids inside. After rupturing my vocal cords, climbing down from my stepladder, and retrieving the tools that my anger had impaled in the drywall, I did what I should have done in the first place. I took my old garage door and that ridiculous two-piece rod to the garbage dump where they both belonged, drove across town to a garage door supply shop, and purchased a solid steel rod, drove home, and installed it. Over a decade later, the garage door still works perfectly, and since then, two things have changed. I listen now more to my instincts instead of blindly following directions, especially the ones that are written by monkeys. And that lovely lady that I moved in with is now my wife. She still thinks I'm Superman, capable of tackling jobs many homeowners would shy away from. But she knows, lurking in the shadows, down a long road of tenacity and tolerance, waits the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, right. He looks so innocent, doesn't he? I am desperate to get you over to help me install my garage door. So please, I am definitely not the kind who could do it herself or even come close. All right, we now, our next wonderful storyteller can recite all of the characters' names and species from Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard by memory. Feel free to greet her on that later. Now, please welcome to our virtual stage, Teresa Silver.
You burn me up, believer, believer.
I want you to think about a time when you prayed for something so intensely for so long that you thought you would never get it. Now, imagine that desire multiplied by 1,000. That's how much I wanted to raise a kitten again. As a child, I raised a variety of animals, but cats were by far my favorite. As I got older, I yearned to experience the wonder of kittendom again. I love witnessing the short, silly, adorable, and intense period of growth kittens go through. My heart melts when a kitten cries. In 2016, when I married my husband, Mark, I became co-parent to a 6-year-old black and white cat named Binky. I desperately wanted her to have a playmate. Mark said he raised 13 cats and never once had to go get a kitten. The universe always sent them. But he agreed, and we went to the ASPCA to adopt. The day we went, the sky was filled with thick black clouds and rain that was so heavy, it sounded like bullets on the car roof during our entire trip. Some might say it was raining cats and dogs. We had to run into the shelter to avoid getting soaked. That's ominous, I thought. We were greeted by an ASPCA employee who said, "I'm so sorry, we've had an extremely light kitten season. The last kittens were just adopted. Could I interest you in an older cat?" I replied, "Thanks, but our cat will feel threatened by an adult cat and she'll only accept a potato." I called them potatoes since that is roughly the size of a 12-week-old kitten. We left empty-handed and disappointed. I also felt a twinge of jealousy towards the folks who were able to adopt a kitten. My faith in the universe had waned. Over the next few years, I would visit sites like Pet Finder to look for kittens, but nothing clicked. Friends asked, why don't you buy a kitten? My reply was that it went against my belief system. There are so many animals in this world that need a home, and buying one seems to defeat that purpose and encourages breeders when there are so many abandoned strays that need homes. I eventually forgot about my request and began to move on. 5 years later, on the evening of July 6, 2021, there was an intense wind and rainstorm that knocked down branches and trees in our neighborhood. The following morning, July 7th, Mark and I went grocery shopping. Due to the COVID pandemic and social distancing, we decided to start shopping early mornings when the store has more staff than customers. We did our grocery shopping a little slower than usual, and we left the store later than expected. On our way home, we were repeatedly delayed. First, we stopped to say hello to our super who was clearing the sidewalk of the trees and branches that had fallen the previous night. Then, as we turned the corner to our building, Mark said, Teresa, look, there are the wheels for your paint cabinet you've been trying to find for months. I turned around and smiled. They were right there in front of our building on a discarded cabinet, just like mine. I removed them, put them in our shopping cart, and we continued on our way. New York City garbage is the best. Then, just as I opened the gate leading to our service entrance, Mark said, Teresa, you'd better pick that up. The universe just sent you the potato you wanted. I looked down and was shocked to see a small gray and white kitten sitting covered in dirt. She looked like she hadn't eaten in a while. She squeaked out. I picked her up and put her on my shoulder. She quivered as I began petting and kissing her. Then she started purring. I felt so incredibly fulfilled at that moment. My heart melted. Mark said, the cat's name is Lucky. She's lucky we left the supermarket late, lucky we stopped to talk to the super, lucky we stopped to get the wheels, lucky we found her at the exact time and place we did. It was July 7th. That made it 7-7. We later noticed that Lucky had 7 stripes on her tail. What could be luckier than all those 7s? What made this even more cosmic was that Mark had found our adult cat, Binky, 10 years ago to the day. While on a bike ride, he saw a black and white kitten just sitting on the sidewalk. He stopped to pick her up and said, you're my new cat, Binky. She peeped, bit him on the nose. He put her in his backpack and biked home. Our kitten discoveries were so similar. These experiences have reignited my belief in the universe's ability to answer my prayers. Only now I realize that it does it on its own timetable, not mine. If you ask or pray for something, be patient. You just haven't gotten it yet. It's on its way. A year later, and I still can't believe how lucky I am.
Oh, yay, what a cute kitten. Oh, I hope we've all gotten our cute factor in. And I love the fact that the universe will deliver if you have the patience. All right, next up for you, we are in for another treat. We get to hear a story from the man who has only broken bones on the left side of his body. So hug him on the right side, please. He was briefly the lead singer in a band called Bullwinkle, which I'm dying to hear more about. You can ask him about that in chat. For now, let's show some mad groupie fan love for Neith Williams.
Me mind on fire, me soul on fire, feeling hot, hot, hot. Party people all around me feeling hot, hot, hot.
So there I was, my second tour in Iraq, stuck in the Euphrates River on a riverine patrol boat with my core temperature rising to meet the desert heat. Now I'm a Navy hospital corpsman, typically referred to as Doc, but you lay people and civilians may refer to my role as a medic, but my training and responsibilities are far beyond that. And my job is to protect the health and welfare of the men around me, and today it's about 30 guys. And as a hospital corpsman in a combat unit, you got to be faster, stronger, and harder than these guys. And now generally, I fit the bill, but today has been a doozy. You see, we're on patrol, nothing new for us, basic day. We're stationed just north up the river, currently at Haditha Dam, where we operate out of. And today, our mission is to take 3 of our patrol boats. These things are beasts, by the way. They're super fast, fully armored, waterborne war machines. We run the river south from the dam to patrol a couple islands with our ground combat team, as well as support 2 mechanized units that are sweeping the banks on both sides of the river for every military-age male in the area. In the river, we can catch any squirters. Yeah, that's what we call them. There's bad guys who might try to hop on a boat and head down the river or jump on one of the islands to invade the mechanized units. Today, we're doing it in the heat of the day, and it's hot. We recorded 145 degrees in the shade, and we're feeling it. Now, our ground combat team, including myself, we just finished patrolling about a mile-long, densely wooded island, and we got nothing to show for it. You know, we're looking for bad guys with bad things, and all we got is heat exhaustion. But we're quickly extracted off the island because we get comms that we're taking small arms fire from the east bank of the river. So we hop on the boats and we push out into a patrol column. Now, the boat guys, they're on their weapons, anxious, ready to handle business. But under the weight of our Kevlar helmets and our bulletproof kits, everyone's feeling the rising heat and starting to show it, including myself. Now, at this point in my 8 years of service, I've seen all kinds of environmental injuries, especially heat-related ones. And let me tell you, heat stroke is deadly. So on top of a combat threat, I'm actively tracking everyone's water intake and their sweat. And one of the lead guys that was on the patrol on the island, he's on another boat and he's already going down hard, throwing up. I got one of my junior corpsmen starting IVs on him. Now, we're beginning to move down the river a little bit when the first boat becomes stuck. Then the second boat's trying to maneuver to get into deeper water, and they become stuck about 100 miles from the first one. Now, I'm on the third boat with a patrol leader, this baby-faced lieutenant. Listen, I've literally got boots that have seen more combat than this guy. Anyway, more about him in a minute. My boat's coxswain's trying to maneuver too, but we also get stuck. So now, there we are. 3 combat patrol boats about a football field's length away from each other, stuck dead in the Euphrates River, and our blood pressures are pumping. Now, we're stuck because the fellas who control the water are at the dam. They control the water levels between the lake to the north and the river to the south, and apparently they didn't get the memo today that we were on patrol and to keep the water pumping. So here we are, having to keep savvy to any of the baddies, and also our guys are dropping from the heat, and we're running out of water, and now we're stuck. As Bose Bracken would say, stuck like a duck with no luck. Worst of all, I'm starting to get nauseous myself and my head is pounding, and I know what that means. Well, with whatever energy I could muster, I spring into action. I look into the stern, I see one of my guys, Estes. He's so pale white and he's not sweating at all. He looks like he's about to fall over. And then my aft gunner, he's leaning on his 50 cal, beat red. I hold myself up and I realize I have to cool myself off too, because I'm really starting to feel it. And I got to help him out, but I got to cool down. Now, of course, old baby-faced lieutenant over here, he's in the shade of the coxswain station, look like a poor man's Ralph Lauren model out for a weekend sailing excursion, all breezy and chill. I'm like, sir, I have to cool down with the cold and the river. I can't make any sentences to this guy at all. I'm trying to explain myself, but it's just not coming out of my mouth. So he's just ignoring me anyways, because he's just too busy sailing. I can see the bottom of the river, and I remember from the patrol meeting that this river stays a constant 65 degrees, and that it's nice and cool. So I decide I need this. I put my hand down in the water and I can feel it, and I say, yes, I need this. So what do? I just step right off the boat into the river, And the lieutenant loses his mind. He's yelling at me from the cockpit station. What the hell are you doing, Doc? Get back on the damn boat. Guys, I am in cool off heaven bliss right now. I take off my helmet and I use it to dump water over my head, and I escape the deathly grasps of the heat stroke monster. I hop back on the boat and I try to explain to the lieutenant I had to drop my core temperature. He's so angry he's not listening to anything. He's flipping out, but somehow I convince him that I need to tell all the guys that they need to do this. Every guy on every boat. We're stuck, the river's low and not flowing. It's 3 feet of water at best. He says to me, okay, Doc, but tie a rope around him. I'm thinking, he wants me to tie a rope around a grown man wearing 100 pounds of gear so he doesn't float down a 3-foot river? Whatever, let's do it. So, one by one, starting with Estes, who at this point is nearly fallen on the deck, I tie a rope around my guys and I start to baptize everyone on the boat in this ancient river like an Old Testament prophet. They start doing the same thing on all the other boats and everyone's coming back to life. Now, the operations chief in the meantime has been able to call the fellas at the dam and get the water raising again. So before you know it, we're back on step headed south. Crisis averted, or so I thought. Unbeknownst to me, when the first 2 boats get to the town of Haditha proper, they unload a couple of the guys that went down from the heat. When my boat arrives, the boat captain tells me to disembark as well. I'm not a heat casualty, I'm mission essential. He tells me, Lieutenant says you're insubordinate. Ooh, I can feel my pressure rising again. My core temp is up. Oh, Neef, let it go. Just do as they ask. So off the boat I go. Once in town, I find 5 of my guys getting IVs from the unit corpsman who's helping with the military age mail sweep. So I jump in and help. I help them do the sweep. By now, the boats are back at the dam because it's only 30 minutes by the river. But for the next 8 hours, myself and this little band of heat-exhausted misfits has to convoy back to the dam, hopping in whatever unit is headed that way. And we get back hella late. And my chief comes to me and he says, we need to talk. And that is the last thing you ever want to hear, especially at midnight after the day I've had. He basically gives me the what for regarding my insubordination, but he lets me explain the situation and my side of things. And he gets it. He sits me down and he says, Doc, you may have to make your idea the young lieutenant's idea. I'm like, Chief, what in the world are you talking about? He elaborates. You see, you gotta say something like, sir, it sure is hot out here. And remember in the brief, the river stays 65 degrees. Maybe we could use it to cool off. What do you think, sir? Of course, Chief, I get it. But I'm hot and I was going down. And if I'm going down, I can't help anybody else out. You know, I can't help anybody or explain anything. Chief looks at me and he says, I totally get that, Doc. And sometimes in a situation like this, you gotta do what you gotta do. Now, these days, I no longer patrol the waters of the Euphrates River in the heat of the summer, nor do I have to convince baby-faced lieutenants that my idea is the right one. But I do know one thing is still true. When the stakes are high and you're out of time, sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do.
You tell him. I love that. You could just tell that Neef has 1,000 of those kinds of stories and all a huge variety as well. He's also a master karaoke person. So as soon as this whole pandemic mess is over, I say we all head over Neef's way and we're gonna party karaoke style. Okay, he's willing to teach us. All right. Our next storyteller is the amazingly, well, I would call her determined, but I think her friend said it best. Her friend once described her as a 3-legged dog burying a bone in an icy lake. That level of determination. She is not messing around, folks. She's also a friend to black cats everywhere and a sucker for her own chihuahua. Please welcome the dangerously determined Deja Bernard.
Hi, everybody. Okay. Okay. So my story is a little bit more lighthearted. This is just about how the universe has a nasty sense of humor. And this is about the last time the universe got a big old belly laugh at my expense. So to start off, some years ago, I became disabled. During a spinal fusion surgery, I got infected with MRSA, which is very, very rare. And it led to some physical disabilities and some complications, very funny universe, haha. It got so bad that a few years ago, I could only do 4 blocks with a walker at a very, very slow pace. I mean, I had 90-year-olds that were lapping me. Like, it was ridiculous. So one part of my life that I struggled really hard with after I became disabled was cleaning my house. And the hardest part of that was doing my dishes. Now, in my mind, I'm not a very demanding person. But I do insist that I have a clean house, and I do insist that I have clean dishes. However, I have a tiny, tiny house. It's beautiful, but it's absolutely tiny and has no room to even add a dishwasher. In fact, it used to be a garage for the house in front of me, and they just converted it into a home and made it a mother-in-law suite. So that's how tiny it is. So here I am, I'm surrounded by islands of dirty dishes. Now, how did I get here, you ask? Well, let me tell you. I'm unable to stand for more than a few minutes at a time. And even after that, I have to sit down for like an hour before the pain eases enough that I can stand up again. However, I'm also a touch OCD, and I have a thing about things being at right angles. I'm also incapable of starting a job and not finishing it. So because I can't finish a sink full of dishes and I refuse to wash just one when I have 57 of them dirty, I end up washing none of them. Yeah, I know, I got issues. It got so bad that I ended up with dishes packed up in buckets and tubs covered with blankets and shoved in my closet because, out of sight, out of mind, I guess is where I was going with that. I couldn't exactly leave them in the middle of the floor, and I wasn't doing them. So that was my option, was to put them in the closet. All right, so then on a whim one day, I started researching dishwashers and found out that there's something called a countertop dishwasher, specifically designed for small apartments and dormitories. And I was like, woohoo, I have been saved. And I started researching and I started comparing and reading Yelp reviews and everything. And I found out it was priced out of my reach. So, okay, that's okay. I'm gonna put it on the wish list along with the Jeep Gladiator and the trip to Jamaica. So I saved up month after month, put a little bit here, put a little bit there, and I finally had enough to order it. So I was like, boom, I knew what I was getting, I knew who I was getting it from, and I ordered my dishwasher like a boss. Pow. Now, I wait 4 weeks for it to get there. It finally arrives. I'm so excited. I unpack everything, I line all the parts up, I grab my toolbox, and I grab the instructions and open them, and they're in Chinese. And for the languages that I can't read, it's not English. So that's a fail. But hey, I was an aircraft mechanic in the Navy. I fixed billion-dollar fighter jets, right? So how hard could a dishwasher be to assemble? No problem. After 2 frustrating hours, I found out it was very much a problem. So, and I hate being the stereotypical female that has to go ask a guy to fix something in her house, but I was done. So I just trundled myself on over to my neighbor's house, the 3 bachelors that live in front of me. And I said, batted my big brown eyes at him and said, so, could you give me a hand with assembly and appliances, a 2-person job? And Mark was like, you need my help, the stoner. I was like, yes. He was like, okay. So we get over there. It takes him all of 8.5 minutes to assemble the darn thing. I didn't say nothing. So anyway, it's sitting there and it's gleaming and it's shiny and it just looks like a jewel. And I swear I heard faint orchestra music briefly, like, ha. And I grab my dishes and I'm ready to go get everything clean. And none of them fit. Not a single one. They didn't fit sideways. They didn't fit diagonal. They didn't fit upside down. No matter what I did, none of them fit. So in my defense, the instructions never mentioned the inside dimensions, just the outer dimensions. And that faint orchestra music turned to faint giggling. I could hear it. So the universe was definitely laughing at me. I could hear it. But in my opinion, I think someone needs to smack that dude Murphy and overturn his stupid law. In the end, I ended up packing it back up and sending it back. And yes, I might have shed a tear or two. I'm not gonna lie. Now I'm going to get a countertop dishwasher from a store in the USA that I can actually take a plate to and hold it up against and make sure it fits. And don't look in my closet yet.
All right. You have to promise no sneaking a peek into her closet. Yeah, I think that's like one of the best like Buy American kind of stories I've ever heard. Because it is tough. I mean, even if you're fully supporting countries all over the place, it's tough when the instructions aren't in English. We do not blame you in the least for that one, Deja. All right, next up we have, oh, by the way, thank you so much for all your comments and chats. Keep those comments coming. I know our storytellers love to be able to read them after the fact. All right, next up we have an amazing performer whose guilty pleasure is watching Shark Tank. Yes, it inspires him to see budding entrepreneurs take a chance at making their dreams come true with big ideas and with less or sometimes zero cash. That is inspirational to all of us. Please welcome the ever charismatic Chris Teodoro.
Don't stop believing. Hold on to that feeling.
Imagine this, the smell of decomposing trash and filth that litters the streets, dilapidated houses and unwanted visitors like rats, cockroaches, and rabid dogs everywhere. This is where I grew up at, in Manila, Philippines. There's so much chaos in the streets, but inside our house, there's peace. As you see, I have a loving, supportive, strong mother. She has never given up on anything in life, no matter how hard it is. She has always taught me to never give up on anything we want in life. You can do anything you set your mind to, she said to me once. My father immigrated here in the US when I was 5, leaving my mother and I. As a young mother, you go through several obstacles in life, right? But no matter what obstacle she has went through, she has never given up on us. She took all kinds of work to raise her only son. So when the right opportunity came, I dropped out of high school so I could help my mother put food on the table and give her a little break. My mom raised me as if there were no limitations on where I could go or do. When I was 13, I got a gig as a member of a traveling sales crew selling sack of rice on foot, zigzagging in the bustling streets of Manila during the day, and a tricycle driver at night. Tricycle is a public transportation in the Philippines, consisting of a motorcycle and an attached sidecar. Life was hard, challenging, but for a young teen, man, it was an adventure. I came home one night, my mother standing there holding an envelope. She handed it to me and I'm staring at this letter. I'm sorry for abandoning you. I was young, weak, and saw an opportunity. And as I continued to read it, many emotions started going through me. Anger, hate, disgust. It's a letter from my father offering to bring me to the United States. After a few weeks of processing all this, these emotions turned into hope, comfort, and acceptance. So yeah, I said yes. I'm going to the land of opportunity. America is not like Manila, I said to myself. I can go back to school. I can find work. I can bring my mother to the United States to escape poverty. So I did it. In 1995, I left the Philippines to move in with my father. I just turned 16. I had full of hopes. I wanted to learn this new culture, learn this new language, eat at McDonald's or Pizza Hut, find work, go to school, make new friends, and most importantly, to reconnect with my father. A few months will go by. I realized something. My father's a drinker. He's an alcoholic. There was this night when he drove me and my siblings drunk after too many beers at a friend's house. I remember being inside his car, my body trembling, shaking, palms sweating. as I hold my younger siblings tight, so eager to protect him from harm. And the time when he had too much to drink at the family reunion and he had to be taken home by my uncle before the event even started. There were other times too, where he would come home from work, angry and screaming, or mornings when he was cold and emotionless. This toxic relationship and emotional distance really created a host of excuses for why I need to be independent, along with my desire to go back to school, get a job, and bring my mom here in the US. I remember talking to him and asking him to go back to school. What he said to me stuck. He said, I help you come here to watch your brother and sister and not go to school. No way in hell you're going back to school. Wow, I'm essentially a nanny, I said to myself. I left the house the next day, a suitcase in a bag. As I walked the dark streets of Detroit, striding past burnt houses or that hit and run accident, homeless people on the side of the streets, all these patrol cars. I thought to myself, wow, is this how my life would end here? Living on the streets? Maybe in jail? What about my mother back in the Philippines? How would she know if something happens to me? How would I be able to support her? I kept walking. Then I hear this sound, clang, clang, clang. Across the street is this white building with architecture based on the principles of Art Deco, which make this strong use of asymmetric and geometric forms. A giant cross at the entrance. Wow, I had visited this place before. This is the church I've been before and had seen that cross before. That cross affected me deeply, making me weep for the first time. As I crossed the street, making my way in the church, I could feel hope once again. I go inside, I sit on the pew. As I close my eyes, I feel a tap on my shoulder. This old lady with a gentle voice gracefully said, "You look like you haven't eaten for days. Are you hungry?" Well, this church became my home for the next few months. I worked part-time in the grocery store, and I got accepted into a high school completion program. I got my high school diploma the following year and joined the military that turned out to be a 24-year career as an Army Special Forces. I'm happily married now with 2 wonderful sons. My mom is enjoying her life here in the States and bought her first house 2 years ago. And this year, I will attain my degree in MBA and be the first one in my family to achieve a graduate degree. So yes, I got my mother here in the US, I got my education, a happy family, and a wonderful, amazing, and awesome job. She was right. You can do anything you set your mind to. Thank you, everyone.
Amen, Chris. Yeah. Wow. Aren't you so excited for that incredibly happy all-around ending? I mean, that story could have gone so dark, people. I don't know if you realized while you were listening. It's an amazing story. We're so glad you made it here and that you're all safe. Okay. Coming to the virtual stage next is a dynamic performer who loves to travel and was the first American born in her family. If you recognize her voice, you might have caught her podcast. Please welcome the always styling LaToya Stewart.
Hello.
Ice cream, chillin', chillin', ice cream, chillin'. Ice cream, chillin', chillin', ice cream, chillin'. Ice cream, chillin', chillin', ice cream, chillin'. Ice cream.
Have you guys ever had a moment where you wanted to punish your kids really, really bad for something that seemed like a petty reason, but in a moment it wasn't so petty? So I've been navigating this thing called conscious parenting. It's much like gentle parenting, but without all the soft voices, right? But the gist is that each child is an individual and you treat each of them as an individual, and it gets you as the parent to stop and think before you respond. Much like life, our children tend to test us. So one day I took my kids grocery shopping. They did so well. So I thought, you know what? I'm boss mom today. Let me go ahead and upgrade it to super mom. Kroger had their ice cream pint size on sale for $1. So I said, you know what? Everybody go ahead and pick out your favorite ice cream. We're all gonna have an ice cream tonight. So my oldest, she picked out her favorite, which is cookies and cream. And then my younger daughter, she got the Oreo ice cream. And my son, he picked up orange sherbet. Is that even ice cream? But me, I got my favorite, the best ice cream Kroger has. And not only that, it's not even, it's a store brand. So you know, it's one of them secret recipes. It has chocolate ice cream. And I'm talking about this chocolate ice cream is so smooth. It'll have you thinking you're on Willy Wonka's chocolate river. And it has chunks of brownie in it. It has cookie dough, and not just any cookie dough. It has chocolate chip cookie dough with the actual chocolate chips in it. Now, this ice cream is so good, but apparently my stomach is so bad to me. It does not like ice cream. I am lactose intolerant. So everybody ate their ice cream that night, not me. I could only have a little bit. So I ate a couple bites. I had my oldest put my ice cream in the fridge for me, right? So knowing that everybody else ate their ice cream, 2 days later, I get a craving for this ice cream again. Chocolate. So I asked my oldest, go ahead and bring me my ice cream and a spoon. You guys, when I get this ice cream container, my heart sinks. This does not feel like the same ice cream that I asked to be put in the refrigerator. I open it up, I look inside, and sure enough, about as much ice cream that I ate out of it was what was left in the container. Red, immediately red. And I start screaming, who ate my ice cream? Who ate my ice cream? Nobody's saying anything, of course. So I say it again, who ate my ice cream? I'm met with, I don't know. It wasn't me. So, you know what? I ain't even gonna say nothing. I'm trying to be a conscious parent. So try to gather what I can left of my hurt emotions and eat my ice cream. But here comes my son with his dad's belt walking around saying, who ate my ice cream? Who ate my ice cream? Y'all, when they say these kids don't be gentle children, they're not lying. I wanted to snatch that belt right out his hand and whoop everybody behind. And I mean everybody. But I didn't. But I got real quiet. And I thought about it and I said, you know what? I'm the mom who gave them kids the ice cream to put away. Even my youngest daughter told me the other day that, Mom, you said children shouldn't have to ask for any food in their own home. Why did I say that? So, you know what? I even told visitors, like, hey, if you're staying here and you have food that you know that you do not want to share, you're gonna have to hide it from the kids. So how could I possibly whoop my children for that? So what I did was I got this calm voice and this stoic look on my face, and I said, ain't nobody in this house eating no ice cream, no popsicles, no nothing until I say so. And I stuck to my guns. I really did. Now, every time we get to eating ice cream, They like to sit and kiki and laugh and say, "Who ate my ice cream? Who ate my ice cream?" But I get to have the last laugh because they don't know how close they came to getting a whooping. And on top of that, they're on an ice cream ban now because somebody left my freezer open. And that is my story. My name is LaToya.
Wow, you do have a lot of patience, and your kids are lucky. I don't know. I am there with you. I don't know how kids can heckle their parents so fearlessly. Mine heckled me the one time I tried to spank her. She was like, "Is that the hardest you can hit? Is that all you got?" I was like, "What?" Crazy. All right. Kids just don't know how close they come. All right, our next storyteller is a man after my own heart. He not only listens to 70s and 80s music, but he dances around to those awesome tunes while cooking dinner, despite having no real dancing ability, just because he enjoys it. Yeah. I know you will enjoy our next story from Pat Durkin. Woo.
There is always something there to remind me. Always something there to remind me.
I am not going to dance. So I wanted a girlfriend. And at the time, I was a young Air Force security policeman. I had had previous dates. You know, they were more or less one and done. Nothing ever really eventful happened. And I contributed that to my rather stoic behavior at the time and my awkward behavior. Women had a hard time reading me, and I had a hard time reading them. My off-duty time was really consumed by solo motorcycle rides across the New Mexico plains, sunset, and especially my midnight rides. Barracks life was stale cigarette smoke, beer, the aroma of fried food, soul and rock music just permeated the barracks. And I really was looking forward to completing my term, getting out, and going to school. But I still wanted a girlfriend. I just really didn't know what I was doing. The following month, in October, I recall I was walking in the evening, enjoying a magnificent New Mexico sunset. And I noticed a parked car, and I noted that there was a dome light on, and it was bouncing off a head of silky blonde hair. And as I approached the car, she emerged. And that silky head of hair was accompanied by just beautiful eyes, happy hazel eyes, and just a cute little nose, a perfect smile, and some adorable dimples. And she had a red blouse on and blue jeans. I was smitten. So after that event, and it was an event for me, I asked around. I found out her name. I found out she was from Wisconsin, and I found out she was a jet mechanic. The following month, during the Thanksgiving holiday season, I was on base patrol in the evening, bored, nothing was going on, and I noticed her car pull into the base post office. So I quickly followed in my creepy, stalkish, awkward behavior style, and I pulled up next to her car, and she walked into the post office. And I thought, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? I had no plan. So I thought, okay, I'll use an authoritarian voice because that makes it legal. And then I thought to myself, well, I'll say, "Miss, are you okay?" And then I thought, well, no, I'll say, "Airman, are you all secure?" Well, as I was going through these mental gymnastics, the metal doors of the post office clanged open, and there she was. Our eyes met. And really, it came out like a voice of a 13-year-old boy who was just caught with a stack of Playboys by his parents. This is for the internet, ladies and gentlemen. And I said, are you okay? And she said yes. And so not only was her hair silky, but her voice was silky. It was angelic. It was as if it was music from heaven. Not only was I smitten, I was obsessed. The next month, we're in the Christmas holidays. I really wasn't feeling that holiday-ish, because I kept thinking about this girl. I kept thinking about her. This had never really happened to me like this before. So I did the next best thing because I'm awkward at that time. So I wrote a note, but it wasn't an ordinary note. It was a note that Shakespeare would have been proud of. And the note read, as I wrote it, "You don't know me, comma, but Merry Christmas, period." And of course I didn't sign it. And I don't know why I didn't sign it, but I didn't sign it. We're not going to get into that. So under cover of darkness, I walked down to her car, parked in the females barracks parking lot, and I put the note on her windshield. And then I used a discarded magazine to hold it in place. Well, I waited a couple days because I thought, we'll let it simmer. And at that time, it seemed logical. And then I called her. And she had just a happy voice. It was angelic, but I digress. And I said, I identified myself, and I said, "It is I who wrote that note." And she said, "Well, you know, it snowed heavily for the past few days." And she didn't find the note until the sun came out. So it was like there for 3 or 4 days on the windshield. And then when when it went away, she had a soaked note, and it was kind of bleeding a little bit, but she could make out what I said. Regardless, I said, "Would you like to go on a date?" And she instantly said, "No." And I thought to myself, "No? So what do you say?" I thought to myself, well, okay, click. Just kidding, click. Phones used to click in the 70s. And then she followed up with, "Well, maybe when I get back from leave." Well, she came back from leave. I did ask her out, and we did go to a movie theater downtown. Now, I don't remember anything about the movie theater, but what I do remember is this. My hand crept or went over there, and I put my hand on her knee. It really kind of hovered. Didn't get the full effect. I was really pretty nervous about the whole thing. She turned and looked at me, and she smiled, and then she placed her hand on top of mine. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the best day of my life. So those best days of my life turned into the best months of my life. No more solo motorcycle rides. She was on the back of my bike, hanging onto my waist. We took long walks. We talked about history, philosophy, religion, our individual hopes and fears. We visited museums. It was wonderful. Well, those best days and months of my life were interrupted. We had an emergency deployment. Something had happened overseas. Details were sketchy. Those were the days before the internet, before smartphones, before cable news. But I knew I was going. And within hours, I saw a C-130 land, taxi, and park in front of the deployment hangar where I had just completed deployment preparations. She woke that morning to the news of my pending deployment, and she raced down to the hangar. And we stood in back of the hangar, and we hugged, and our bodies pressed together. And her voice cracked, saying her final goodbye. And I felt a wave come over me, a wave of sadness, as if the wave was trying to erase those past months we had spent together. And as I walked away to board the aircraft, I remembered I turned around and I looked at her, and her face contorted, trying to keep in the tears. As the aircraft lifted off the field, the C-130 engines droned mournfully. I was leaving behind the best days and months of my life. Decades later, I think of her often, and I cherish that first really true love. And when I wake up in the morning, I smile, and I turn around, and I push up against her back, and I kiss the nape of her neck, and I run my hands through her now blonde and silver hair, and think, these are the best years of my life. Thank you.
Oh, how many people were taken in by that, right? You didn't see that coming. You were just like, what? You thought it was one of those, oh, he's thinking about his old love while he's with his current love. But no, they're one and the same.
I was
Mind
taken in. I was fooled.
Love it. All right. It is my pleasure to introduce a woman who will grab your heart and never let it go. She has a whopping 13 children, but don't worry, they're actually her.
What happened?
Zoom always brings difficulties, am I right? Don't worry, Stephanie will be back soon. Oh, there she is. Hi, Stephanie, you're back.
Hey, I'm sorry. When did it cut out? Was I
13 children.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yes, so the 13 children are actually her nieces and nephews. Just she thinks of them as her children, and that's sweet. Hold on to your heart, people, lest she steal it away, and give lots of love to the one and only Jahari.
Cause I gotta have faith. I gotta have faith. Because I got to have faith. I got to have faith.
Now, I'm not one to brag, but I've been called a shero by many people who know me. And those people couldn't all be wrong. As the first female and the eldest child to join the military, I say, yeah, I fit the shero definition because I've always felt strong, confident, and unafraid to change the world until COVID-19 struck. This unseen predator is as sinister as carbon monoxide because you can't smell it, you can't hear it, you can't taste it, you can't touch it, but its effects are lethal. August 2019, I received a phone call from my cousin in New York. She said that my dad wasn't looking good. His eyes are yellow, almost orange looking. Orange? Oh, this is serious. Take him to the hospital now and I will arrive first thing tomorrow. I immediately called my twin brother who also lives in New York. When he picked up, I was struggling to speak because we just buried our mother. But I finally gave him the bad news about our dad. I said, I'll arrive. I finally gave him the bad news about our dad. I arrived at the hospital a few hours later, and my twin met me in the main lobby. We hugged, and I wouldn't let him go. He jokingly said, I love you too, sis. But if you hold me any tighter, this could be considered incest. I still didn't let him go. And for the first time, he saw his big sister scared. So he held me as we walked into the hospital. First, we spoke to our dad's doctor, who played a painful guessing game. Well, we're not sure, but it may be this, or you know what? It might be. Clearly, he didn't know. Then we finally saw our dad, and he looked ghostly. He also had difficulty breathing, but his strong and insulting profanities stayed intact. Go figure. We were not prepared for this because our dad has always been so healthy. He loves to exercise and eat right. He would jog all the time. So looking at him was difficult. We stayed in the hospital with him for a few hours, and after getting cussed out a few times by our dad, we felt he was doing okay, in spite of the obvious. So as we were leaving, he said, I want to go home now. Damn it! What is the problem? I turned around and I walked back to him and I gave him a kiss on his forehead. I'm going to clean your apartment and stock up your refrigerator. He calmed down just a little bit. I'll see you tomorrow. Then he said, don't touch nothing because I'll know if something is missing or have been moved. My brother and I said in unison, love you too, Dad. And we left. A few hours later, as I was cleaning our dad's apartment, my twin called me and said, 4 of our childhood friends are in the same hospital with Dad. What the is going on? Within a short span of 2 hours, they each passed away. My whole body was numb. My dad's apartment is sparkling clean and his refrigerator is stocked, so he'll be happy. The next day I went to the hospital and my dad's eyes were almost back to normal. Ooh, I was so relieved. I was so nervous. And I was relieved to know that he is doing better. Later that evening, while I at my dad's apartment, my cell phone rang. I noticed the caller ID read hospital. So I picked up the phone and said, hey, Dad, I was going to call you and give you an update. Oh, hello, doctor. Is my dad still fussing and cussing at everybody? Y'all ain't used to it by now? By the way, when is my dad coming home? Hello, doctor? Are you there? Ma'am, I'm calling to tell you your dad, he didn't make it. He didn't make what? Wait a minute. Are you telling me that my dad is gone? He passed just a few minutes ago. My condolences to you and your family. Okay. Now what, God? Since August 2019 through March 2020, we lost our father, 5 childhood friends, an aunt, and an uncle. The hardest for me was in March 2020 when I lost my twin brother. Now, it's my turn to cry. How can anyone survive this much loss and grief? How would I survive? Well, I was introduced to another side of strength. I got help from a therapist. Yes, I know. It's taboo, especially in my community. But my therapist is my shero. She helped me to appreciate my life again with healthy and realistic boundaries. She showed me how to walk through my triggers and use a breathing technique to calm me down. And it works. I still have my weekly sessions because my mental and emotional health are essential to my survival. I now smile without guilt. I learn to forgive myself and manage my anger. My journey through therapy has shown me that there are all kinds of strength and heroic acts of kindness in this world. This shero is hanging in there. Thank you.
No. Wow. Your story gets me every time. That is so powerful. Like, oh my goodness, but we're so glad that you are hanging in there. Pandemic suck. I gotta tell you, after hearing Latoya's story, I needed for sure a pint of Ben and Jerry's ice cream. And after your story, I feel like I need the ice cream and a stiff drink. But we'll hopefully, whatever it takes is to get us through. Hopefully we're all making it through. Oh my goodness. Did you lose me again? Am I back? I hate my internet connection. Am I back? I hope so. Okay, I'm
We
seeing
can
some
hear you.
nods.
We can hear you.
But thank you for sharing that, for sharing how you got through it.
Mm.
Okay, last but never least, we have a power performer for you who is King Tut's fourth cousin, 37 generations removed. I'm not sure what that means exactly, but he's got that going for him. He was also with the gunman on the grassy knoll. That's right, he's seen and knows it all. Here to share a little bit of his vast experience is our final storyteller of the night, KJ Bradley.
Some people call me the space cowboy. Yeah. Some call me the gangster of love.
Okay. Okay. Committing to 7 fiancés at one time may seem like a lot, but I can explain. It was right after 9/11, and I just decided to leave college and enlist in the Army. And after wargaming in my head and knowing that going to war was inevitable, I couldn't leave the earth without an heir to the throne, right? Plus, basic training is, slow time. And getting letters and pictures from different women regularly, they gave me major clout in the Bay. Well, I was about halfway through basic training when the drills kind of told us, hey, you're going to go home on pass for Thanksgiving. And out of the 7 girls that I had committed to, only 3 were real contenders. The other girls, they were good girls, just not quite the settling down type, if you know what I mean. Let's call them Texas, Georgia, and New York, obviously to protect my own reputation. I called my mom and my brother, and I came up with a plan. The first step of the plan was not to tell my sister, because of snitching. And secondly, we'd stagger all the girls through and cycle them through. And when it was time for them to go, we'd just make an excuse about going out with my cousins. It was the perfect plan, right? What could go wrong? Finally, the day comes, and we get started early, inviting the first girl over for breakfast to begin the process. Now, my uncles and cousins, they all came early too, because by now, most of the family was either cheering me on or waiting to see the drummer when the plan blew up in my face. The first few, though, they went smoothly, and by now, I think we were kind of getting into lunch. The men were out back, and the ladies were in the house prepping the meals. The alcohol was flowing freely, and the family was doing good keeping things together so far. Texas. You see, Texas had flown in and was staying at a hotel close to the house. We had to have been about 4 girls in there, and I must have been feeling a little cocky and starting to think, man, I might just be able to pull this thing off. But when it was time for her to go, I remember hitting her with my line, and she hit me with a line of her own. She said, boy, I ain't fly all this way to spend Thanksgiving in a hotel. Do you mind if I come with y'all, or I can just hang out with the family and try to get to know them more? I was shook. But my uncles, they came right on time. You see, my uncles gave me some game. He said, listen, have your sister take Texas out while Georgia come through. Georgia cool, so as long as you stay on the clock, nephew, you'll be good. Bet, I leave to go talk to my sis. I say, all right, sis, I got to put you in the game. I need you to take Texas to the mall, talk up a bit, and fill out for me. She smiles adoringly and says, say less, big bro. I got you. And they head out. Perfect. About 20 minutes later, Georgia pulls up and she does her rounds with the family. Now, you see, Georgia, she's the family favorite, so everything without a hitch. But as she was getting her hugs and saying her goodbye, here come my sister pulling back up. Man, but I'm a player though, so I tell my uncles, yo, I got this one, watch me work. I tell my uncles, keep Georgia in the back while I find out what's going on. And I'll run up on sis, I'm like, hey, what y'all doing back so early, girl? And my sister said they went to the mall, but the mall closed early, so they came back. Full stop. All right, sis, look. I'm thinking about giving Texas the ring today, so I need you to take up to the room and keep her distracted while I get things ready down here. Now, my sister, being a player herself, she immediately knew something was up. Plus, Georgia's car was on the curb, so she kind of gave me the side eye, but she agreed. They go upstairs and close the door. I run back out and I tell Georgia, listen, we gotta go. And as I'm walking up to the car, I make sure to walk her around the house away from my sister's room, just in case. And just as she was about to pull off, she goes, I think I forgot my coat and purse. And me not thinking I got away with it and a few drinks in myself, I say, all right, go grab it real quick because my cousin's waiting on me. Well, it took me about 2.7 seconds to realize that I'd messed up. The coat and the purse were upstairs. I leave my cousins and I beeline straight for the door. And as I'm opening the handle, you can hear all kinds of cussing and fussing. I get to the room just in time to hear my sister go, KJ, I'm so glad you can make it. Fiance 1 has just met fiance 2. And if they're willing to stay a while, fiance 3 will be here shortly. Man, it hit the fan. I'm talking absolute chaos. They fight and fuss all the way into the front yard, and somebody must have called the police. Because when the police arrived, they pulled up 6 cars deep, cuffed the girls and 2 of my cousins too. Let's just say because of medicinal purposes, right? The girls leave under police escort, and I never got to chill with New York, who was my favorite. You see, apparently, she had family in the area, and they pulled up just as the cops were doing their thing. They saw the girls and guys in handcuffs and decided to just keep on rolling. I lost 7 fiancés in one day. And although none of those ladies worked out, I learned a valuable lesson that day. I decided never to date again until I was serious about settling down. And I'm happy to say a few years later, I found my happily ever after. We're now 10 years strong and counting. That's my story.
Woo. Yeah. Can you believe it? I mean, these are all true stories, people. He really had 7 fiancés and lost them all in a day. I love that, but it's got a happy ending. I'm glad you're happily together with someone and there was no bloodshed. Thank you, everybody. That is our show. Thank you, first of all, to all the amazing performers, right? You make it look easy, but trust me, it is not. You did such a great job. Let's just have everyone unmute themselves to just go wild with the applause you weren't able to give. Let's do that. So everyone unmute. Unmuted. All right. Yeah, let them hear it. Yeah.
Well done, everyone.
Oh, God.
Oh.
Great job, everyone.
Fantastic job.
Good job, everybody.